that is when I started to discover that you could be in a good firm and yet it be toxic to you because it's not the right fit. There was that piece. And then there was also the other piece, which was very me-based. And that was, I said yes to everything. I wanted to please everyone. And a lot of lawyers do this. And frankly, a lot of lawyers do this throughout their entire careers. And I think this is why we have so many of us who are so unhappy, because we're huge people pleasers and we never step back and go, wait, what's reasonable here? What can I actually do? What do I actually want to do? What makes sense for what I want out of my long-term career? And this always stuck with me. She's like, Heather, I'm sorry, but the world's not going to fall apart without you for a couple of hours. And that is when I started implementing things like time blocking into my day, where I'd make all my phone calls would forward. I'd shut my door. I'd do my hardcore drafting and thinking and structuring work that I needed to do. And guess what? She was right. The world did not fall apart. Nobody cared, because I did get back to them afterwards, right?
You are already not just a lawyer. Who you are has nothing to do with being the lawyer. And that's the disconnect that we have to work on and get there to be able to fully leave and accept it and be okay with it. It's a process. It takes a long time.
Welcome back to this episode of the Will Podcast. I'm delighted to have Heather Mulder here with me today. Heather is a big law partner turned business coach, and she's the host of the Life and Law podcast about achieving success without sacrifice, which is something I think a lot of lawyers want to know how to do. So after building her own multi-million-dollar law practice around a full life, she left to help other lawyers do the same. So Heather's known for blending her practical business strategies with mindset work to help lawyers build those profitable and life-full practices. And when not helping lawyers ditch the grind, you'll see Heather cheering on her football and baseball-loving sons in the hot Texas sun. So Heather, take us back to your own big law days and what that was like for you as an associate and then someone who moved up in those ranks.
So I'm in Texas, and back when I started, I'm not young, there were no national or international law firms in Texas. Texas was dominated by Texas-based firms who were here forever. It's not anymore. It's not like that anymore. So I started with what I like to call big law light firm. They were very big law-like, but they were a Texas-based firm with mostly Texas offices. And it was a great place to start my career from a training perspective. But a couple years in, I realized, okay, maybe this isn't what I want. And I was really questioning early on, do I even want to practice law? I'm miserable. I hate what I'm doing, which was really discombobulating for me at the time, because I'm one of those really weird people who thought I wanted to be a lawyer from a very early age. I was like 11 when I decided I wanted to go to law school. It was always what I wanted. So I took some time, thankfully, to step back and figure out what's really going on here. And ultimately, I realized I was at the wrong fit firm for me. It wasn't the right practice area. It wasn't the right structure. So I'm very entrepreneurial. Freedom is a big value of mine. And it was a typical old school, very hierarchical law firm that felt very oppressive to me. And during that time period, I did take a look around and notice how many very unhappy lawyers there were. But I also noticed the truly happy ones. And at the time, I didn't have the right words to put around it. I don't know if it's the right words. Now it's coach speak words, right? I realized certain people kind of played by their own rules and had their own principles that guided them. And they built their own book their own way. And I now know they were very values-based people who understood who they were, what they cared about, and they built their practices that way. So I learned from them. And that's ultimately how I figured out, okay, I need to leave. So 5 years in, I left that law firm and went to a brand new in Texas firm, Greenberg Traurig, not a new firm, big law. That was when the big international and national firms were just starting to get into Texas. So I moved to a different firm that was very entrepreneurial and really met my needs and my values, allowed me to build my book my way. I was still a finance attorney, but it was a different type of finance practice. So TK was very oil-based. This was not. And ultimately, I loved the people. I loved the structure of the firm. I loved being left alone, not having to play by everybody else's rules. And that is where I made partner, built my own book, and thought I would be practicing happily ever after. In a nutshell, the beginning, middle, and then how I started to make partner.
I mean, there's so much in that I'm curious about. As a younger associate, you said you were miserable and you really did some soul searching then. What were the things that were making you miserable then?
Couple of things. One was definitely I didn't pick the right firm for my values. It was just very structurally oppressive to me. I mean, I could walk in, come off the elevator and feel like the weight's on me, and it wasn't the people. And so it was really hard to figure out initially what is going on, because the people were nice. They were training me well. It wasn't that. That is when I started to discover that you could be in a good firm and yet it be toxic to you because it's not the right fit. There was that piece. And then there was also the other piece, which was very me-based. And that was, I said yes to everything. I wanted to please everyone. And a lot of lawyers do this. And frankly, a lot of lawyers do this throughout their entire careers. And I think this is why we have so many of us who are so unhappy, because we're huge people pleasers. And we never step back and go, wait, what's reasonable here? What can I actually do? What do I actually want to do? What makes sense for what I want out of my long-term career? When I looked around and noticed there were happy people, the nice little unicorns, they actually said no more often. They had real boundaries. It dawned on me, oh, it's possible. And that was another reason for my move too. I mean, ultimately it wasn't the right fit, but after spending a number of years saying yes to everybody, you kind of create a habit and an expectation.
Totally. And it's the culture too. It's the norm. I actually was on a call yesterday with two very, very seasoned lawyers. I asked them if it would be possible for them to turn off their notifications while we were doing this workshop. And they didn't know how to turn off their notifications. And so I said, let's take a minute and figure it out. Are you guys game? I wasn't forcing them, but I was like, are you game? And they were both like, yeah. And then I was like, can we Google it? Like, how, because they have Outlook and I'm not an Outlook person. Anyway, just in the search bar, they went to like, how do I turn off notifications, and popped up, and they just slid the thing over, and they'd never done that before.
That is kind of insane, honestly, when you think about it.
Not judging them. I think
It's the culture.
it's the culture.
We blame it on the law firms. It's not the firms. It's the people within the firms. We're rule followers. We want to do it like everybody else. And we just assume that's what will make us successful. And maybe it will on paper, but ultimately it catches up with you, and you have to have some real boundaries. I had a mentor, not real early in my career, but like midway through my career. And this always stuck with me. She's like, Heather, I'm sorry, but the world's not going to fall apart without you for a couple of hours. And that is when I started implementing things like time blocking into my day, where I'd make all my phone calls would forward. I'd shut my door. I'd do my hardcore drafting and thinking and structuring work that I needed to do. And guess what? She was right. The world did not fall apart. Nobody cared, because I did get back to them afterwards, right? Like I would set reasonable blocks throughout my week where I could do that deep work. And it's interesting to me in the work I do now with lawyers, how when I suggest that to them, how many of them bristle like, I can't do that. Like, yeah, you can.
You can. You actually can. All right. So you had a mentor who kind of helped you set that boundary, like gave you permission to, which not everybody has. And then you made this switch, and then you became partner at a big firm, at a right fit firm. And then what?
So early on, I became partner as a finance attorney in 2008. And that was the crash. So I had a small book of business when I first made partner, and it was gone by the end of the year. So the next couple of years, I worked hard to grow it, and I did. And everything seemed to be going really, really well. And then at the age of 38, I was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of breast cancer. I didn't know it at the time, but that's ultimately the seed that was planted that led me out of practicing law. And it was a long time before I left still, but it was an interesting time. I have two boys. They're much older now, but they were 6 and 2 at the time. The prognosis was honestly not good initially because of how fast growing and aggressive this cancer was. And there was an assumption that it had spread. And if it had spread, that would have been a death sentence. It would have been a not, if, but when. Thankfully, I found it in time, and it wasn't. And I got into a trial. It saved my life, I think. That journey, I had built a book with clients I adored.
and who really liked me, not just as a lawyer, but as a human. So my brand of client development was always very personal and really getting to know the clients, serving their needs, talking them through business issues too. I wasn't just their lawyer, I was a business partner, which really saved me during that time because I stepped back for almost a full year. That was at a big firm. There were attorneys who were able to step in and assist so that the business didn't just go away, but they were all still there when I came back.
Because you'd really built those relationships, those like real human and business relationships.
And they cared about me, right? So as a person, I was more than just a lawyer. And so that is how I help my clients now try to do, because I think it's a much better way of relating to your clients, make for a happier practice. During that time, there were people who just came out of the woodwork who we even barely knew. People from our school, people who my husband worked with that I had never met, who signed up to bring meals, who offered to take our kids places to get them out, and also to help my husband out when I was going through treatment. And it was life-changing for us. It was really helpful. And it planted a seed at the time around just personal care and how important it is to individually help people. So one of my biggest values is service. And pre-cancer Heather was all about doing my best, showing up, being present. That's what service is about. And that's still there. But that year-long journey for me also kind of changed that definition, which I didn't know at the time, but it changed it to also include really help people on an individual basis, figure out how to live their best lives and how to actually be fulfilled and happy and have a sustainable life. So I came back after almost a year out, and I did what I think a lot of people did post-COVID. I want to get back to normal. Problem with that is when you go through something that's so life-changing, normal is not what was pre that event. You have to actually figure out your new normal. So I spent a couple of years trying really hard to push back into pre-cancer life. And it wasn't working very well for me. And there was this moment where I was washing dishes at the sink, and I almost felt like I was like above me watching me. And this person looked like me, she sounded like me, but she didn't feel like me anymore. And that was kind of like the clicking of, I have to figure out what's going on. And maybe practicing law for the rest of my life isn't it, but I had no clue what that it was. So that's really what started my journey that eventually led me out of practicing law and into coaching. And honestly, I had no clue where it was going to go. I mean, I looked at a million different things. I thought about, does it mean I have to change firms? Do I start my own law firm? Do I do all these things legal related? Okay, well, what about nutrition? I was interested in nutrition. Post-cancer, you tend to get really healthy. And I ultimately decided none of that was going to work for me. And then someone I knew who happens to be a coach said, have you thought about coaching? You'd be really good at that. And I started looking into it and I'm like, that's interesting. So I decided to go through a coach training school on the side to see if I liked it. Coached a couple clients on the side to see if I liked it. And then there was this moment where I looked at my husband and said, I don't want to practice law anymore and I want to start a coaching business. It took a couple of years. This was not an overnight thing.
No, it's not an overnight thing. I tell people, I was working full time when I started my coach training. I went to NYU, I'm here in New York, and they had a program. You could take a weekend class, and I got started that way too. And, you dip your toe in, whatever it is, whether it's coaching or astrology or whatever. But you hadn't experienced coaching yourself really before hearing about it, and, which is interesting because I think I'm meeting a lot of lawyer coaches now. I went to this lawyer coach conference recently, and now there's when I started Will, there were very few of us, and now there's thousands, which is wonderful. And many of them have the experience of having received coaching as a transformative life experience.
I think most of the coaches I meet who are former lawyers, and I don't think this is all of them, but a lot of them that I know, went into coaching because they realized maybe law wasn't for them and they were trying to figure out. And I think my path is just a little different because I loved being a lawyer. I loved practicing law. I got to partnership. I built a big book. I was very quote unquote successful. And, then I had that moment of, something's changed. And I will honestly tell you, I didn't know that much about coaching at the time. In big law, back when I left, even before I left, because it was several years before I left when I started this process and started looking into it and started taking part-time classes, coaching wasn't a big thing.
lawyers didn't know that much about coaching. We are much better about it now.
It's very different now. The landscape is very different. I started Will in 2018, and the landscape is tremendous. And there are a lot of firms now that really have robust in-house coaching programs. And not all, and still not most, but some.
But at least they know about it. I mean, most lawyers, when I started doing this, what is a coach? What do you do exactly? Like, I had to explain it. I left in 2017. And now people know. They may have incorrect assumptions about what coaching is and who it's there to help, but they at least have a sense of a little bit of what it does.
I'd love to hear. How do you describe coaching?
I don't actually have to describe it a whole lot anymore. I'll be honest, I don't purely coach anymore. I do a lot of consulting now. If I went back in my previous years, how I would have described coaching, it would have been something to the effect of coaching is a space for you to explore and figure out what's really going on inside of your brain as to why you feel stuck and what you actually want in life. And it's just a process where somebody is there who's trained to hear you, really listen, pull some things out and help you figure out what your real answers are. I think a lot of times people think coaches are going to tell you what to do. And that's not the case. And that's where I'm a hybrid. Like, there are times where coaching comes into play. There are mindset things. There's a lot of stuff where coaching comes into play. But I also consult a lot because that's what people hire me for.
And so what are you consulting on now, on helping lawyers like grow their own practice? Is it both in firms and their own firms? So say a little bit more about your work now.
So my work now is primarily business and leadership coaching. I would say 80% of my practice is in the business coaching side, 20-ish% is pure leadership coaching, no business. The business coaching includes leadership too, and it obviously includes coaching and work-life balance and all the things that come into play. But people hire me so they can build their book, so they can grow their book, and so they can do it in a way that's sustainable with real boundaries, saying no to some people, including clients, y'all. You can say no to clients. You can say no to taking on certain clients, helping with that.
What are some of your favorite stories of a client you've worked with and how you've helped them?
So I think my favorite stories all revolve around people who come to me thinking, I'm just a lawyer. I don't understand marketing. I'm not good at sales. I don't understand the business side, which is all a load of bull because it's not that hard. It's just practice and learning the skills. Like, you're very smart. You've gotten to where you are for a reason. You can figure this out. Trust me. If people who drop out of college or never go to college can build businesses, so can you. That's what I like to tell them. But they lack the confidence. So I have several people come to mind, but one that comes to mind early, like a couple of years ago, she came to me. I just don't understand the business side. I need help with growing my law firm that I've just started and doing it in a way that will work for me. But also, I need to understand the numbers. I need to understand the KPIs. I don't even hardly know what that means, right? And she felt very, quote unquote, dumb for thinking that way. And I'm like, well, you've never had the classes. You don't know them, but you can learn them pretty quickly. And then fast forward a few years and she's thriving and she's building her practice. And it's more than that, though, because she feels like, oh my gosh, I'm a business owner. And that, I think my job is to help people step into being real business owners because they can do it. And a lot of what we do is practical, tactical, but behind the scenes, what they don't realize is a lot of it is mindset and beliefs and assumptions. And so we work through that as well.
And so tell me about the overall impact, because I think when she's able to do that, when she's able to understand how to grow a practice and then say no, what has been the impact, not just, again, for her business, but for her whole life?
I think it's this feeling comfortable in your own skin, understanding who you really are, getting to a place where you can, it's not that you're just saying no, it's that you say no and you feel good about it and you don't obsess your brain. Her brain's not going into, oh my God, but should I have said no? What will happen now if I lose work? We do that. And it's about getting comfortable with, no, this was the right thing. I'm cool with this and I'm going to move on. And I have the confidence that I'm going to be able to find the right fit client anyway.
My practice is in helping those women lawyers who are more like either when you were that fifth-year associate and was like, well, I don't know, I'm pretty miserable, and do I want to really stay? Is another firm the right? Or that point of no, I don't want to continue practicing. I don't know what else to do. And I help that woman lawyer, typically it's some men, non-binary people, really just get that clarity quickly, figure it out, and make that transition.
And I'm so glad there are people like you doing that. When I started my practice, I did some of that work. Honestly, it's not my favorite. It's not where my gifts lie. And it's funny because I started there and then it kind of morphed into more and more attorneys. Well, you built a great book of business. Can you help me do that? And so I kind of like fell into what I do now.
But I think that's my point also is like there's so many wonderful lawyer coaches out here now. And like I want to showcase people like you and me and the person who helps the public interest lawyer and the person who does, you know, this other. And I actually met a woman who I have a little touch of what I think is clairvoyance. I get ideas for people. I get like that kind of experience you had floating above your body. I mean, I get a vision for people sometimes. And because I'm a coach, I ask permission. Can I have this idea for you. Do you want it or not? And she had also survived cancer and has become a coach. And as we were talking, I was like, you know, I think there's a whole group of lawyers who have a crisis, who have a medical crisis, who have a life crisis, and it changes them and they don't know what to do from there. And so I was like, I think you could niche your practice there. So I don't know, just any thoughts you have about finding, again, like you said, you found your way. You weren't into the career transformation. You're into the like business growth. Any thoughts you have about this?
I think the biggest holdback for most lawyers who are in those shoes is our desire and really our mandate. We want to know for sure, is this going to work? Is this going to be successful? Is this going to be the right choice? And the fact is, there's no way to know until you actually do it. So you have to have an openness and willingness to, I call it playing. You want to have a mindset that sees it as curiosity and playful and let's see, almost like when we were kids and we were trying to figure things out, like we were a lot more open to that. It's so much easier if you do that. That was my perspective. And I know it's really hard. And it's hard because we're often walking away from huge paychecks into the unknown. So my other 2 cents is don't expect that you're going to just jump off a cliff overnight. Like, it's okay for it to take a couple of years to fully transform. It's okay to save, to change how you're living. We did. That moment I told my husband, I am going to leave the law. I knew for that 2-year period that I was going to walk out the door, but we were financially ensuring that we were secure, had savings. I knew I'd be making nothing initially. I planned to be in the red for at least a year, maybe 2, because I'd heard it took a good 2 years to build a good coaching practice. FYI, that's correct. I think a lot of it has to do with you don't know what your coaching practice is really going to look like until you start doing it. And it takes a while to figure out, what do I even want? And then once you figure that out, you got to market to it. I'm guessing that's the same for almost any business, right?
I think so too, right. I think coaches put a lot of pressure on themselves, like not just lawyer coaches, but all coaches, like I should be able to like quit my job and like replace my 6-figure income. It's like, no.
You're starting from nothing.
And also like I have to bootstrap it. It's like, well, if somebody opens a Subway or Dunkin' Donuts, guess what? They're taking out a loan to open that business. But I love that focus on curiosity and play. And I totally agree that that is where I see so many lawyers getting stuck, is I should be able to think my way to this new thing from this very place of not doing any exploration. And just, I should be able, because I'm smart and capable and that's how I've been trained and that's what I've been paid for, I should be able to just think my way to it and then be able to take that one step. And that's just not it at all.
You can't know how it's actually going to feel and how it's going to work within your life until you actually do it. And I like to tell people none of that is a mistake. Like going off and trying. When I came out, I started a work-life balance coaching business. Hated it immediately. Realized it was the wrong thing. Like if anyone, I wasn't working with attorneys. Then I started pivoting towards attorneys more. Like that a little more. Got a lot of people who wanted to leave law though. Realized quickly that that wasn't what I wanted to do. So like I had to play around. None of those were mistakes. I had to do it to figure out whether I liked it or not. And so it took me 3 years, I think, after I started coaching to fully go all in on business and leadership coaching for lawyers who actually want to be lawyers. It takes time.
And anything that you do, you have no idea whether you're really going to enjoy it. You can't know in your head. You got to get out there and experience it. And I think lawyers are really bad about thinking they experience it enough inside of the confines of their heads.
What I see is they shut it down very quickly. Well, I can't make enough money coaching. I can't make enough money doing XYZ. They don't explore it. And so the path I walk people down has that exploration built in with support where they get clear on a couple of top ideas and then they start really exploring those beyond the Google, beyond ChatGPT.
I want to challenge a lot of lawyers on this enough money thing. You can live on less than what many of them are living on currently. You do have to change your lifestyle, and that is absolutely possible. Ultimately, it's like, look, people, there are trade-offs in life, and you've got to get real about what the trade-offs are and what you're willing to do to make what you say you want happen. We lawyers, we make a lot more money than a lot of people out there. There are plenty of happy people making less. I make a lot less now than I did as a partner at GT, and I'm incredibly happy. My family is happy. We still make enough. So get really clear about what enough really is and what you're willing to let go of and give up and save. Like, so we had a 2-year plan to save enough money to help us with that transition period of not making money. So that's why I say you don't have to jump off the cliff immediately. There are things you can do.
I call it like puddle jumping. It's like you're jumping over a little puddle. It's like one little puddle after another, and then you jump over a bigger puddle. Then it's like sunny again. I literally have had people, this just dropped in, like tell me that after they left law, like they started seeing color. Like it literally was like the sun came out again. It was, they actually started seeing more color in the world. Like the gray somehow.
And what is that worth to you? Seriously, is more money worth it to see all the grays? Or like, we got to get more realistic about who we are, who we want to be, how we want to live our lives. And I think we get so tied into the people pleasing and also the what do others think of us? That is a big piece of the puzzle I've found with the people I talk to who have trouble leaving. They think it's about the money when it really isn't. It's about how they'll be perceived by other people because we lawyers are respected and people think highly of us and we have a status and there's this identity piece that goes into it.
Say more about that identity piece. Those are two like nuanced things. It's the what will other people think about me, but then it's also really underneath that, I think, is that identity. It's like, what will I think of myself and who will I be if not, and I've had so many people say this to me, who will I be if not a lawyer? What will I tell my kids? What will I tell people at a party?
You are already not just a lawyer. Who you are has nothing to do with being the lawyer. And that's the disconnect that we have we have to work on and get there to be able to fully leave and accept it and be okay with it. It's a process. It takes a long time.
What will other people think about me is like a mindset issue that I certainly work on with clients. And yesterday I found this little Taylor Swift book in one of my little free libraries in my neighborhood, has like a bunch of her quotes. She was like, other people are going to judge you no matter what. So why don't you just do what you want?
Accepting that is a big piece of the puzzle, I think, right? So other people are going to judge you, but also other people don't think about you nearly as much as you think they do.
Exactly. That is the bottom line I get clients to get to also. Is like, nobody really cares that much. Like they might think about you for a minute and then they are on to their next thing. Nobody is losing sleep over what you're doing at night. Well, Heather, what would you say to a young lawyer who was struggling if you could go back to your younger self at some point and when you were like unhappy and you were trying to figure it out? What might you have to say to them?
I mean, I think it's important to not assume it's because you don't like the law or you're not meant to be a lawyer. I think you got to step back and really figure out what's actually going on here. Is it that I have no boundaries? Do I need to create some? Is it that I'm working with somebody who's just very difficult? Is it that this culture is not a good fit? There's a lot of things. Or is it that I went to law school because it seemed the thing to do and I didn't really want to, and maybe I don't want to be a lawyer? There's a lot to it. And I would say back then, I could have used a coach. I would have figured it out a little quicker. I would have made the transition a little bit quicker. It all worked out fine timing-wise for me. Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody to help figure those things out. One of the things, the biggest lesson that I learned as a cancer patient, and so I'm the oldest of a bunch of siblings. I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters, 2 stepsisters. I've always been the one everybody went to for advice, and I relished that role, I have to say. And I think most lawyers are the people like that, and we do not like to need help. But the thing that I learned when I was going through cancer was every single individual has unique gifts, has unique strengths, and they are meant to use them for the benefit of others. You have them, but somebody else does too. And when you allow that to occur and you accept that help from someone else, it really brings forth a deeper connection with people. It makes you feel good when you realize what you're doing for them by allowing them to help you. And funny enough, I believe that's part of resilience. I believe that allowing yourself to be human and admit that you're human allows you to build up that resilience and understand that you are actually stronger when you admit that you have weaknesses and you get help for it.
That humanness that just really touched me and I think that's why so many people actually wanted to become lawyers, that they wanted to help people. They wanted that human connection. And they don't want to have to wear a mask. And no wonder they have imposter syndrome, because they're pretending to be someone they're not really. I mean, it's sort of like accurate. And to come from that human place, I mean, I think that story of how you developed those relationships with clients and they waited for you because you had that human connection with them. And I think that's really, really beautiful. Receiving help is part of being a leader, actually.
Yes, it is. It's a big red flag that you don't understand yourself well and you don't understand others well. And it is not a weakness to accept help. It is a weakness to not seek or accept it when you absolutely need it.
And to not let the people in your life shine their strengths and gifts and bring that forward. Like you just said, before starting Will, I did coaching and consulting in lots of organizations. We coached the head of a big nonprofit here in New York, Family Services. And his desk was empty. He had nothing, the CEO had nothing on his desk. It's he was there to be there to essentially coach his leadership team and allow everyone to shine and thrive and be their best. And that was really how he saw his role. And it was really beautiful. I remember, I was wow, got nothing on your desk. It's not a computer, it was just a phone and notepad. That's pretty much it.
Interesting. You don't see a lot of those these days.
I think a common thread, I just am getting this, of your work and my work, is helping people be leaders in their own lives and setting those boundaries and figuring out, what is it I really want to do? Do I want to stay in the law and grow a business? And many of my clients stay in the law and grow businesses and move to new jobs and things. But it's really owning that leadership in one's own life.
Absolutely. And you can't be a leader of others if you can't be a leader of yourself.
Our life is the only one we really, really, really get to lead.
Well, it's the only one we can truly control, right? We only have control over our decisions and how we respond to what's going on. And so taking control of that is a big piece of leadership.
100%. Okay, I think that might be a beautiful place to land. Where can people find you, Heather?
So people can find me on LinkedIn, Heather Mulder, Moulder. I'm very active there. On my podcast, which is Life in Law, lifeandlawpodcast.com. And then my coaching website, if anybody's interested in business coaching or leadership coaching, is coursecorrectioncoaching.com. And I think you have all those links.
We will make sure to put all those links in the show notes. Thank you, Heather, so much for being here today. Really appreciate this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Will Podcast. If you liked what you heard, please follow for more, rate and review to help another unhappy lawyer find her way here and see there's nothing wrong with her. You can also please share it with a friend. To learn more about how Will can guide you to clarity, freedom, and relief, go to www.womeninterestedinleavinglaw.com and book your confidential consultation. Where there's a will, there's a way. Let's get you on your way today.